Welcome again, everybody, to the Resilient Minds podcast. I'm excited because, this week we're getting started with the Bitcoin series, and we've got amazing Bram Kanstein. Is it Kanstein?
Oh, very well. Well done.
Nice.
Yeah. Usually they say Kanstein, like Goldstein, but this is how you pronounce it.
So I'm excited to see you again, brother. It's been a few weeks since we saw each other in Madeira, in Portugal. But I do think that, for those that don't know, I'd literally love to just give him a little brief on you and your creativity. So Bram is a creative internet entrepreneur and Bitcoin podcaster. He works with founders and decision makers from all over the globe to de-risk new business ideas and really grow them from 0 to 1. His podcast, Bitcoin for Millennials, is geared towards helping the millennial generation really focus on understanding Bitcoin and spread the word about how this unique discovery, because it's a discovery, not an invention, of Bitcoin can fuel innovation in finance, energy, and our society at large. So I'm really excited. Bring you on, brother. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm excited to learn and spend time together.
Thank you, man. We had an awesome time in Madeira, and I don't say this too much, but I loved how our energy matched. I remember we were sitting on the rooftop, and we just started talking, and I don't know, we took some sort of direction, and we ended up very deep within a few minutes. So I'm excited to talk again, man.
Likewise, brother. It really is a pleasure, brother. And it's interesting. And I really want to just share, for me, I really find that everything in our world is a deep mirror. And as long as we're willing to pay attention, everything starts to come to us. And we don't need to really necessarily do anything. And it's taken so much deep work on myself to start being able to see that. And so I'm grateful to have met a mirror like yourself, bro, because it keeps going from 0 to 1 to another 0 to 1 to another 0 to 1, like faster and faster. So I'm pumped and excited. So, dude, tell me, we talked to Stefan Lavera, a couple episodes ago, and we talked about the phenomenon of what's happening in our current reality, and where spring is spread, the dollar is inflating, falling apart. What do you see about the importance of money and why Bitcoin is the standard of excellence that is going to change the monetary policy in the world?
Yeah, well, to start answering that, I think the first question we should try to answer, I think there is not one definite answer, but the answer to what is money, right? Like that's a question that, especially I think in the Western world, we don't necessarily ask ourselves a lot. Especially, that's also why I'm focused on millennials, but like millennials in the Western civilization never really had to question what money was or how it worked. We just got the dollar or a euro, or in my time a guilder, to go to the store, and you gave the coin or the note, and you got a bread in return or something, right? Like, we never had to worry about like how does money work and what is money actually. And I think that is by design, right? Because as you learned probably from Stefan, the money is corrupted, right? The money is being printed at an exponential pace and therefore debased. It's being lowered in value. And when I started to realize that I didn't know the answer to what is money and started studying, came across lots of different ideas. But I think what I distill it down to is basically that money is a technology that we use to exchange value with each other. So if in a free market we meet and you can do something for me, let's say you are a carpenter and you can build a shed in my garden, then we shake hands on an agreement as to what that is worth, right? So you say, I need the materials, I need 3 days to build this thing, etc. And that's going to cost X amounts of whatever the money is that we use. And that is what that technology should represent. You do something and you expend your time and energy, right? Two very precious resources that we have. And I give you something in return where that same amount of energy basically is captured in. It represents the energy that you expended, basically. And so what we think of as money, right? Your Canadian currency or the American currency is actually, I already said it, it's a currency. It's not money, because we have three basically characteristics of money. This is defined. This has been defined before. One is a medium of exchange. So you built a shed for me, and I give this to you in exchange for the value you created for me. Then we have a store of value, like a way for you to keep that stored energy to a certain point in future space and time, basically. And the third one is called unit of account. So that is how we keep our books, basically. Right? And so what we currently know, and I think especially in Canada, people see it even way more, right? The prices of a lot of things are going up. The units, the amount of units of the currency that you need to use to buy XYZ thing is going up over the years. And so why is that happening? And that is happening because the system that we have, called the fiat money system, fiat is money backed, or created by a government, backed by a government, by promises of other people, basically. That money is there's more units being created of that money. And what happens when more units of a money are being created? It loses the value per unit of that money. So if building that shed in my garden cost me 1,000 units of the money 5 years ago, the amount of labor that you put in, the amount of energy and time that you spent on it, will probably be the same 5 years later. But because the units have been devalued, you will probably be asking me for twice as many units. So let's say instead of 1,000, you now ask me 2,000 5 years later. And why is that a problem? Because if I give you, let's say, keeping with the example, 5 years ago, I gave you 1,000 of these units, and you didn't have anything that you wanted to spend that captured energy on, basically, on another product or a service that also costs energy to create or maintain, then you want to be able to store that energy into the future until you actually want to use it, right? To buy a product or a service. But because in that time, more of the units are created by the government and by the private banks, the amount of units you have lose value over time. So you are not really able to store the value that you captured by building the shed for me over space and time. And so this is the biggest thing that is wrong with the current money. And I think we'll get to Bitcoin in a second. But what does this do, right? What does this do with the time preference of humans? Like, what are you going to focus on? Because if the future is already uncertain by definition, right? We cannot look into the future. We want to have a money that can help us mitigate that uncertainty, right? You are an entrepreneur as well. If you have a new idea that you want to explore, you need to take a certain risk because your idea is probably wrong, right? This is my job. Like, most ideas are wrong. So you're taking a risk when you're investigating an idea. But you need time and mental space to actually investigate if that business idea is a good idea. So what do you want? You want to stack up on some energy, create time into the future that you can use to explore, for example, a business idea, but it could as well be for someone who wants to explore the real job that they want to pursue, right? To really find their passion or what they're interested in. But you need to create the space for yourself to actually do that. But if you're not able to do that because the value of the money that you currently are using now is melting away over time, you are way more focused on the present time to, one, protect the money that you have in some way, right? That's why everyone is a stock trader. That's why people are gambling or buying, I don't know, whiskey, sneakers, cars, homes, right? Biggest problem. In order to try to keep that same energy amount into the future. Yeah. And therefore people are discounting the future even more because they think I cannot even, it is already uncertain and I don't even know how I'm going to get there. And therefore people are mostly stuck in a short-term time preference in the present, and they cannot really project their life towards the future, which is very important, you know, for your dreams, your passions, anything that you want to achieve. You will not have tomorrow. It takes some time. But because the money is so broken, people are not able to create a long-term time preference, which is actually needed to also create things of real value, right? The painting behind you is not made in a week. You need time to create something that is well structured or beautiful. And that is also why you see that the quality of products, or the food, for example, has gone way down as compared to, let's say, 50 years ago. And a prime illustration of that, for example, is that, and maybe you recognize this, when people say like, oh yeah, a bread in the 1970s used to be 25 cents. And now it's $4 or €4. And I always use this example because then I ask people like, does this make sense to you? Does it make sense that if we progress as humans and we improve our technology and our efficiency, that's what humans do all the time. We make things better. Shouldn't everything also become cheaper? Like currently you have a free calculator in your phone, which is a microcomputer that is more powerful than the computer that sent the first rocket into space, right? 20 years ago, you and I in high school, we bought a graphic calculator for a calculus class, etc. Now that is free, right? These things get commoditized. That means free for everyone. So if you believe that technological innovation is deflationary, everything will become cheaper and more accessible, then how come that a bread is now $4 or $5 and nutritionally probably even worse than the bread from the 70s? Because it's also a mass-produced bread. And so here you see kind of the two forces that are at war. One is the deflationary force of technology, which has always existed, right? You can even go back to the printing press. Before that, only the monks had access to knowledge, had access to books. Once those could be printed, the knowledge got democratized, more people got access, and that progressed the civilization. Same for the train and all these things. So that has always been the case. So if you believe that improving technology is a deflationary force, which should make prices go down, on the other end of the equation, we have the money that is being printed, more and more is created. It's being, the prices therefore of things are inflated. You need more units of the same currency to pay for the same thing. And those things are basically at war. They run into each other. And because the bread is actually $4 or $5, you can see which side is winning. It's actually very weird. It's like we are going back in time, right? all the bread should be free. No one should be hungry in the world, but here we are. And so I think that's maybe the first part to start as to look at, this is the current system. I don't know if you want to add
really
anything. Yeah.
No, I love that you actually took us back a moment, because it's important to realize how even misappropriated some of the language is being. So, for example, the other day on Facebook, somebody was saying or sharing how they can help people save money, and how their money if they continue putting it into RSPs, or how they ever how they decide to save it, is going to be more valued into the future. And I asked the question. I said, have you considered inflation? And what would be the store of value of that money saved the following year with that inflation? And based off of the definition of inflation, he said that the currency doesn't need to be addressed to inflation. However, with the current state of the economic system, that immediately debunks his argument, because the store of value will change based off of the monetary printing, or the printing that has been happening over the past. And so it was fascinating. And this is somebody that has a fiduciary duty and a responsibility, and is not communicating those levels of reference. So I love that you bring this up, brother, because I believe there's people that are actually out there sharing information that is completely irresponsible, and they don't even know it themselves.
I agree. It's probably not malicious, but
no,
it is what they have learned, right? And I mean, I've been in Bitcoin for 10 years. I do not have an economics or a finance background. That is probably what helped me. But I've talked to people that have who are masters of finance or masters of economics, and in their entire study, they haven't learned about what is money. They just were given, this is money, a currency, which is different than money. And this is what we're going to work with, basically. And only after being a master of finance, they learned what money actually was. But to add to what you just said, I think there's two key points, right? I think one, so we talked about, when you do job, when you expend energy with your job or a venture, what you ask in return is energy in the form of money, right? But what people also need to understand is that when you have a job, you take a job, right? You pick a job, or you have a venture, you are also taking risk, because there's all these things that might influence, you keeping your job, or how good or bad your venture goes. So you take risk. Everyone takes risk. If you sit at home and do nothing, you also take risk. So everything is a risk, right? Every choice is a risk. When you take that risk with a job or a venture, and you get rewarded with money packaged, or energy packaged by the money that you're forced to use, right? It's also a thing. You are forced to use this money in Canada, right? You can say, I want to pay with, think of anything. And people are able to denounce that, right? Like to refuse that. So you are forced to pay, to use a certain type of money in the country that you live in. So when you take that risk with your job or your venture, and you get rewarded in the energy packaged in money, when you go home, there's still people outside of your circle of influence, right? At the private banks, at the central bank, and they actually influence the worth of the money that you just took home after taking risk with your job or venture. So when you come home, you everyone has a second job that they are not aware of, and that is taking more risk to mitigate the debasing value of the money that you just earned. So as you mentioned, there's people that promise, these and these returns, etc. I don't know what the real inflation rate in Canada is. Maybe you can look it up quickly somewhere. But I think effectively it's probably above 12%. It's probably more in Canada.
Let me
So
just
when you
quickly,
get home, yeah, look it up. When
because
you
you know
come
what,
home,
bro? Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. Keep going.
yeah. So to finish the thought, when you come home from your job or your venture and you got the money where you expended your energy from, you have to take more risk to mitigate at least 10 to 12% of real inflation, right? The prices you pay to buy your food or pay for your rent depends on where Eric now ends up on which government website. But I think that's also the point, right? Like most governments lie about CPI, the consumer price index, where they have like a list of things that like the prices that they track. But for example, home expenses like living is not even included in there. So
Yeah,
it's
consumer
just
price index. So
yeah,
I mean, it's
exactly.
saying 3.4% as of December 2023. But I don't know if that I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't.
Okay, well,
Uh,
let's maybe you can edit it in the screen. We'll look it up. But the point is, when you come home, the money that you got for your job or your venture is being debased on purpose. That's the entire goal. That is because the basis of the economic system that most countries used, the Keynesian system, says you have to have at least 2% inflation in order to how do you say, like, incentivize people to spend their money. Well, in real effects, it's way more. It's above 10 or 12%. But anyway, the point is more that when you get home, you have to take more risk to at least get to zero inflation, so that for at least 1 year, the energy that you just captured stays the same. And the energy that you captured basically represents what you can buy with that energy from other people, right? And
so
yeah,
go ahead. My apologies. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So my thought process is thinking, okay, we are fighting inflation, especially since COVID. I would say hyperinflation. And when it comes to the shifts in the way that money's been being printed, how do you feel like that resonates or uh, changes with Bitcoin? What is the difference and the uniqueness that Bitcoin, not crypto, but Bitcoin, brings to the table that, for example, this inflationary money has been doing for so long?
Yeah. So why what is inflation, right? We just talked about it. It's more units for the same product, more units of a currency for the same product as before. That's why the prices, the numbers you see, the units you have to pay, they go up. That does not necessarily represent the value going up, right? Why is a home that someone bought 10 years ago and they didn't change anything that is up 100%, for example? Does that mean twice as many people want the same house? Like, is the utility value of that house going up? Having four walls, a door, and a roof. The answer is no. The price went up. The units that you have to pay went up, not because the house got worth more. No, it's because the units that you are pricing it in are worth less.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other way around. Most people will say, yeah, but there's not that many houses, and still the same amount of people want houses. Like, yes, there is scarcity, but well, that is the cause that they want you to believe in, of course. Well, the real cause is it's the debasement of the value of the units that you're pricing the house in. So what is Bitcoin then? right? The biggest problem
Sorry,
with,
I need to interrupt for a second, bro. I
yeah,
apologize because this is brilliant. And I think that so many people need to understand this part of the real estate component because literally the other day I was walking around the lake and I bumped into my friend and he's been a builder. His family's been builders and his families before that been builders. And he's like, yeah, but like I'm just gonna store all my money in the real estate market. Like I have for generations for my parents. I've done for generations. And I said, no, like you don't understand the number just because the value from your perception has gone up. The value of the dollar has still gone down, and the cost of goods to build that house or to mortgage it or to rent it is still being used by the fiat currency. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that before we go into the Bitcoin, because I just really want
yeah,
people to understand the fiat and the real estate market, how that really comes together.
yeah,
Please.
yeah. So because people cannot save in the money that they get, right? Because it's being debased, they are looking for ways to mitigate the debasement of the money. As I just said, right? They're going to take more risk. So they're going to buy assets in which they think they can store value. And these assets already have a certain value, right? The biggest asset class where people try to store their value is in real estate. That's what real estate has become. But when you think about what I just said, the utility value of a home, a door, four walls, and a roof, etc., like a place to live, that need of people has not changed in the past, from whenever homes started, I don't know, all these years, right? And so what they call a monetary premium is added to the price of that house. And that monetary premium is created by the speculation on the increasement of the prices of the homes, basically. Does that make sense? So people have started to invest in real estate because they think that is the best way to store their value into the future. And then there will be people who say like, okay, you have cash flow, etc. All true, but you also have a lot of headache because you have to fix everything around that house. If your renter complains, you have taxes, all these things. So to me, all that stuff is a nice story around the asset of buying real estate. But in essence, when you buy real estate, and this is the entire premise of the fiat money system game, when I buy a home and you need a home to live in, then I can dictate what that is worth and make you pay for it. So I win and you lose, right? So there are people that own, I don't know, 1,000 homes, for example, right? And they all dictate the lives of the tenants of those homes, basically. And so you can think of that whatever you want, but I think this is a nice segue to Bitcoin. All the assets that you can invest in with your fiat money to try to store value, they are all reliant on other people to keep them stable. So even if I have 1,000 homes in real estate, if there's a mayor in a certain town who wants to defund the police and the town turns into some crack town with squatters and junkies, then the value of the home goes down, right? If I have homes in Flint, Michigan, America, I have lead in my water, right? Like everything that you can store the monetary energy in, it has third parties that control basically that asset class, right? Same as certain permits for certain areas, or if people invest in exotic cars and petrol cars can be banned, right? Like anything you can currently think of, there's other people who decide what that is actually worth. And also, most of these things, maybe except for a car that you can like hold on your hands to, like not a lot of things are actually in your possession, right? Like you do not hold on to the home. You have a title deed, right? That says like Eric owns the home on this address. But if the government wants to build something in that area, maybe they can even take it from you, right? There's all these opaque laws around all of these things, basically. And so that, again, this is also part of that fiat game. You don't really own anything you think you own. So even when I pay you in cash for building that shed and you put it in the bank, then you actually loan it out to the bank and the bank is gonna try to make more of it. So it even works like that there, basically. But if you hold on to that paper money, there's still someone from the Central Bank of Canada. Today we saw in America, Jerome Powell again. They basically decide this is what the money in your hand is worth. So all these assets, all these ways to store the energy that you expended and got rewarded for, they are all influenced by other people that don't care that you are Eric and that I'm Bram. And they don't care about your individual, your family, your life, and all these things. And this is just, how it's been created. But it's a problem because we discount our future. We cannot save. We cannot follow our passion, our interests, our skills. And so we are still more confined than we are free. And that is because the money is broken. It gives everyone basically who touches the money wrong incentive. So how do we get to Bitcoin? The two biggest problems here are we currently use money that's infinitely created, so it's also infinitely debased, basically. And the money that we use is influenced by third parties that we do not know, and they don't even know us, but they don't really care. So how do we solve those two things? For me, this is what is part of the big discovery of Bitcoin. So first, how do we create a money that has a finite supply? That is one of the main characteristics of Bitcoin. There's eventually only 21 million Bitcoin that can all be divided into subunits of 100 million Satoshis. It's called sats. So you can have 0.000001 Bitcoin, basically. And that limit of supply is captured in a mathematical formula that is being audited by a network of computers, over 18,000 computers, every 10 minutes. So the monetary policy that is called the issuance schedule and the supply schedule of Bitcoin is audited every 10 minutes. The Federal Reserve in America has never been audited in, 130 years. Okay? So that's the whole point. You do not say our system is sound and resilient, as Janet Yellen, for example, says in America, but you can actually see it. It can be proven to you. Are the rules of this money system, are they still being upheld? Are the people who are participating in this money system still all following the rules? And every 10 minutes you get an answer, and the answer is yes. And why is the answer always yes? Because in Bitcoin, you do not have to trust other people. It's a motto. The motto is don't trust, verify. You can actually verify everything that Bitcoin says it is. This is my issuance schedule. This is my current supply. These and these entities, wallets in Bitcoin hold these and these Bitcoin. When you download the entire blockchain, the ledger of Bitcoin, which is about 500 gigabytes, you can go back in time for 15 years and see everything that ever happened inside of this money system. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, how much money you have, whatever. Everyone can audit this money system. So when you decide to adopt this money system, you basically say, okay, I'm going to comply with the rules of the system because I can see that everyone else who uses this system also complies with the rules. And therefore, Bitcoin is also called a trustless money network. You don't have to trust anyone. You don't have to also investigate anyone, right? If we hear Jerome Powell today talk in America, what are Jerome Powell's motives? I don't know. You don't know. But as an American, you should know, because he controls what the money that you hold is actually worth. What kind of life is that, right? You have to watch a press conference from a random guy that you didn't even choose to be the leader of the Federal Reserve, the Central Bank of America, to decide what the energy that you accumulated by expending the energy with your work or your venture, what that is actually worth, and how that influences your current life and your future life. And so that is what I also think is the beauty of Bitcoin. When you adopt Bitcoin and you understand that all that energy that people are going to expend into the future with their jobs or their ventures, right? That is the productivity of the people. If all of that value, that energy will flow into the 21 million Bitcoin that will eventually exist, then you understand that Bitcoin is, some people call this a black hole of value. All the value in the world will be represented within these 21 million units that can, again, be divided by 100 million units each. So there's enough for everyone, basically. So the core difference between these two systems, system A, the fiat system, and system B, the Bitcoin system, is system A is a soft system. It is soft money. It is easy to make. People at the Federal Reserve press a button and it appears. There's no work for it. No energy is expended to create that money. So easy money is easily diluted. System Bitcoin is a hard money. It's hard to produce because once you study Bitcoin, this is too long to explain, but you know the issuance rate, you know when new Bitcoin come into this bucket, this system. There are so-called miners, I think Stefan probably talked about this, right? But they expend energy, they use real world energy, hydro energy, wind energy, solar energy, to solve computational equations and eventually mine Bitcoin. And that's how new Bitcoin get created. So real energy, kilowatt energy is like in joules, etc., are expended to create this digital energy, basically. And so it's real energy captured in a digital world and secured in many different ways. If people want to study Bitcoin, they'll figure this out. That's too long, I think. But you cannot just make more Bitcoin. And I think you saw the talk in Madeira as well by Jack Mallers in the beginning, his first talk. And he said, Bitcoin, because we know another hard money, a hard asset, which is gold. Gold is also hard to make, but gold is being dug out of the ground at a rate of about 2% each year. So each year, 2% more gold gets created, basically, because it's dug out of the ground. But that the harder we dig, the more gold we will find, because we know that gold is in the earth, right? We can fly to a meteorite and get the gold there, etc. So if we do more, if we expend more energy, we will find more gold. If we expend more computing power, tomorrow, let's double the computing power in Bitcoin, we will not find more Bitcoin because the Bitcoin is stuck in the future. You have to wait for more Bitcoin to be added to the system. So Bitcoin is the hardest money to ever be, well, we say discovered. It's created by multiple inventions of multiple people being put together. And what does this do? So we have this super soft money system and we have the hardest money to ever exist system. Once you see that, and this was for me the biggest point where I really moved basically everything I own into Bitcoin, was if I store the energy that I received for my work in this first system, there's everyone is profiting from that except me,
Mm.
because it's being debased on purpose. Other people try to make more money with it, the banks, etc. So if I see that as like a package of energy, and at a certain point in time, and I just take that and I move it into this other system of money that is the hardest money to ever be to create. You cannot make more, only not even if you wanted to. Then I can actually save towards my future, because I know that, well, if you understand it and currently also a bit believe it, that if people are going to trend towards getting the hardest money for their work, or transforming their current soft money into the hardest money ever, then all the productivity, all the energy of all the people will end up in these 21 million Bitcoins. So the price of Bitcoin, what it represents, what I can do with it, the energy that it has, it will at least stay the same if I store my energy there now, but it will probably accrue in value, because all the productivity and all the energy of all the people will actually end up in Bitcoin. Because once I understand Bitcoin and I'm going to do something for you, then why would I want to get paid in the soft money? I'm going to ask you for the hard money. But when you have that hard money, and you know it's the hardest money to ever exist, you will want to expect, you will expect value, real value from me. You're not going to part way with the hardest money to ever exist in an easy way, maybe like you do now with your fiat money. So then, to tie it back to the beginning, we get back to a real free market, a real market where people who say they deliver value will actually really be tested if they deliver value, right? Because if you are going to think twice before just spending your money, because it has to be on value. So if you have the choice between, let's say, 5 breads, you're going to buy the most nutritious and most healthy bread instead of maybe the cheapest bread, like a lot of people do now. So when we go from a soft money to a hard money, we will incentivize people to actually deliver real value. And I sometimes take the example of, I don't know, I think you see the door, right? Here you see
Yep.
the door. Like I live in a 120-year-old house. Back when this was created, this carpenter was like, I'm going to make this door pretty. I'm going to do something with this door, right? I'm going to spend my time and my energy to make this door look pretty. Whatever, even I see this one too. Yeah, like this door, right? With the LED. Now you have houses that, either fall apart, or they have like this pressed wood, just, rectangle doors, nothing special. And that is the entire point. That is also why all the food is so bad, and why, well, that's another topic, but pharma, etc. Like the incentives for being rewarded in a soft money are perverse by default. Why would I deliver value if the money that I get rewarded in is bad? Then I can probably be better off by corrupting a certain system, or trying to game something, or trying to game other people. That's why it's a zero-sum game, the fiat finance system. Whereas in Bitcoin, it's a mutually beneficial system. If I provide value, you get value out of it. If you provide value, I get value out of it, because we all make this money system better, basically. So I'll stop talking there, but yeah, that's a switch from soft to hard.
I love how you're able to really paint the picture, brother. It's and thank you for being so clear in the way and the language that you're able to really help people at a simple level really bring this to life, so that they can have a clear comparison of the two. I think it's really important, because a lot of people, they think Bitcoin's a scam and all these things and all these stories and all these uh, illusions that have been portrayed by the same system that has been lying for generations. and by the same system that created and continued to print and manipulated us and our parents for such a long period of time. And so it's nice to finally be in such a state of principles and values. And I really find that in the community, this is what is really comprehensive, is that everybody is so much about winning together. And I have to say that, you know, I shared this with you in Madeira, that for the first time, I felt like I was breathing air. For the first time, I felt like I was around people that really could understand, you know, why we're here to exist as a co-creative capacity, and we're not here to fight with each other or compete with one another. We're here to like serve and support and elevate and co-elevate. And so, you know, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said the other day, he said, the reason that I became so successful was because of my community, because of the community that was around me, that helped elevate me, that helped grow and helped come together. And I really believe and feel that the essence and the integrity of proof of work in Bitcoin, and how the community really translate that into genuine care and service for value, is something that illuminates our nature's law, our meritocratic mechanism, which we were originally here to cultivate. And so
Yes, it's a
love,
nature law. It's sorry to interrupt, but like to tie back to what I just said, the proof of work, that is what creating the Bitcoin, a new Bitcoin is called, right? But that is the ethos. If you have the hardest money ever, I cannot say to you, I'm going to build the best shed ever. I'm going to make the best bread for you ever. I cannot. I can say that, but you are not going to give me your money because you need more. You need my proof of work. You need, I don't know, my reviews from other people or a sample from me or whatever. Like, I actually have to work to deliver value, to get value from you. Yeah. In a fiat world, well, look around, you know, it's all talk. People make money by just shit talking or just saying, you know, I can build a kitchen for you, or I don't know, sell you a car or whatever, and people get scammed left and right and all these things. Like, it is incentive. It's not the fault of the people, right? It is incentivized by the money that we are forced to use. And what Bitcoin solves, I talked about this last week. We are all corruptible, every one of us, right? Even if we would say from a distance about someone else, like, oh, I would never do that, right? I would not be a banker and fill my own pockets and blah, blah. Like, you know, but that's an easy cop out. Everyone would say that, right? But once you are in that position and you see an option to corrupt a certain system, you will corrupt it for your own benefit, right? Like anyone listening here who has a child, you see that it's all about me. It's my survival, me first, then the rest, right? So
so
everyone
I'm
is
going
corrupt.
to,
Yeah.
I have to challenge. I think it's most people. I don't think everybody is corruptible. I do think that it's most people. And so I'm going to challenge that with love and direction, because I do
Mm,
believe that there are layers of us that have a standard and a principle, that are willing to walk a path of absolute congruence in everything that we do. And we have a responsibility to uphold that standard for the people that we love, and the people that are willing. And I'm just sharing that because I know that that's the past and story, but I do believe
mm.
genuinely, Bram, that there are people, and I believe that you and I are those people as well, that are willing to walk the path of principle based and solution focused, and are, you know, I can tell you from my experience, bro, like I've been on this journey, and I know that you've been on a very long one yourself. Is like people have cheated and lied, and it's like, it's fine, it's okay, that's what you
Mm.
need to do to win, and that's okay. But we keep going forward with certainty and growth, and keep trusting in something that's greater than ourselves. and keep serving, keep showing up, keep doing it, keep having that resilience, keep having that standard, keep having that focus, keep having that determination, because you believe in something that is truly infinite within ourselves. And I believe, bro, that from that state, from that layer, from that ability that's deep within all of us, we can really show up in those standards and those principles. And so all I'm saying is that I do believe that there's more of us out there that is inherently, that's what people are wanting to discover and are willing to go there, that but they just have so much fear. And I think that
Yes.
that's what.
Well, I agree. So I definitely do not disagree. What I'm saying is we are also, if we, to a certain degree, I would say everyone is corruptible. I mean, everyone has a certain price. It's more about being in that situation. Yes, I do agree. You know, you can fight that, but the point is more that the systems that are currently set up and everything, think of all the problems you would want to solve in the world in whatever way, everything is downstream from money, because money creates the incentives for the things that people eventually do, right? Because that is the technology we use to exchange value with each other. It is that is just what it is. But the point I wanted to make is, if we can accept, let's say, that most people are corruptible at a certain price, at a certain moment, at a certain opportunity, yeah? If we can accept that from ourselves also, right? So again, we can say that from afar, but if we are actually in that situation, you cannot talk, you have to walk, right? Like you have to do it. But let's say once we accept that we are inherently corruptible, let's just generalize, right?
Most people.
We need something to solve that for ourselves. So even though you might think you're a righteous person, if you deal with other people that are corruptible, you are still in a disadvantage. That's the point, right? So how do we free ourselves from that inherent corruptibility, either from ourselves, whatever you want to say, or the other people, right? Because only when we free ourselves from that, we can create an equal system, a money system in which we can exchange value with each other for whatever we do. It doesn't matter what we do, you know. And that is what Bitcoin brings us. The trustlessness of Bitcoin makes sure that you don't have to trust any individual person. There's 18,500 computers that create a consensus every 10 minutes about all the elements of this money network. And so that is the point. This gives us a way to free ourselves from that corruptibility and also flip the incentives for judging what value actually is, as I just mentioned. So people can still try to scam other people in this world, right? And do all the debauchery and all these things that they are doing in the fiat world. They can try, but because the thing that they want to get rewarded in is so pure and transparent, it will be way more, the incentive to comply with the rules of this money system are way bigger than the incentives you have to try to game this system or game the people that participate in the system. So why is the thesis that I mentioned before that Bitcoin is a black hole that's going to soak up all the productivity of all the people, is because more people will realize that their lives will get better once they are not forced to trust other people that don't know them, don't care about them, and will never take responsibility for whatever they decide. You do not have to trust another person. So what a great life is that. I can focus on myself. I can focus on my craft or my passions or my interest. I can focus on my family. I can create that path, that time towards the future to actually create something, produce something instead of consuming stuff, right? It's consuming versus producing. Consuming is short-term time preference. Producing is long-term time preference. Is taking risk to actually achieve something, not taking risk to protect something. So that is the point that I wanted to make.
I think that's beautiful, and I love how you really like created that space. And it's interesting because I do feel that when people have the space to create, to really go towards something that they meet is meaningful to them, that they will actually inherently create that. Will in that's their they will drop into their level of autonomy, of sovereignty, of expression, of truth. It's no
Yes.
different than even in the most people, everyone suggestion. We're able to have here this beautiful, thoughtful disagreement because we're like we both believe in the same thing, but are able to communicate it in a different way. And so I love that the essence of it allows people to really truly trust in themselves. And how do you feel that's going to affect the more of us that are involved into this new monetary system? How do you think that's going to affect our future generations as they kind of are able to be raised within it? I'm curious.
Mm. Well, I love what you said about the whole journey of discovering who am I, what is this life, what am I doing here, what can I add, all these things. That's a lifelong journey, right? And so if you are forced to stay stuck in a place because of people who make decisions and does have influence over your life, again, that you never chose to have influence over your life, that don't know you, that don't care about this journey, that's just a really sad state of affairs, right? Because if we can all discover who am I, what am I here to do, what can I add to this world, then it's also an inspiration to see that in other people, right? If I see that, like the energy that we had when we talked to Madeira, like it is you. In 5 minutes, I feel like I'm rooting for this guy, and I know you are rooting for me. How great is that, right? It's not I win, you lose, etc. It's like we both win, whatever winning is, right? Winning is for me, figuring out, what the hell is going on here, basically. um, but that I think is like those are the big questions. Those are the big questions. What is life? What is death? What is the universe? Like what the fuck is going on? Instead of which celebrity left blah blah island or has beef with yada da. Like really, that those are like short term time preference instead of the long questions, the big questions, the trying to help each other move forward questions, right? And so I think you said it right. You need that space to figure out what is my added value, what can I think about, what can I contribute to. And because your time preference is influenced by that bad money, you start watching reality shows instead of thinking about like those types of things. And it's all unconsciously. People don't realize it. And so this is, and I think that's important to say, like also like we talk about this. This is hard because we are inherently also lazy, and we have dopamine and all these things, like we get a certain satisfaction from all these short-term time things, like that is also why it's so hard to not, well, eventually break out of it, but also to open your mind to a certain degree. If you listen to this conversation and heard your neighbor say, well, Bitcoin is a scam, blah blah blah, to actually think, well, maybe I'm going to listen to these guys for an hour, and then I'm going to spend an hour of my time to actually think for myself, right? Get information, not rely on what Eric and Bram say or my neighbor says, but I'm going to actually find information to create my own judgment. And so, well, if you think about next generations, I have a son. I think if we can create the space for the children, like for the children who are going to be grown-ups, to actually have the space to figure out what can I add to this world, then I mean that sounds really good. I think that would be very beneficial for the people and the planet and all these things. And so I think eventually having the goal of giving everyone that space to figure out who am I and what am I here to do or to give or to add, I think that would be great.
And those are the questions that I think matter most. And by giving this time and space and really stepping into this community, it can help even more people discover how they can do that, or find more solutions together. Because what I've noticed is a lot of people, like you said, want to rise together. So it's not about win or lose, as you mentioned. It's about actually, wow, that person is shining. So what can I do to help them shine? You know, that
Yes.
person is doing something incredible. What can I do to help them? And I think that that's such a different level of philosophy that has been so important for me traveling for the last 6 years, 7 years, you know, really wanting to contribute my energy. And then what I've noticed, Bram, and I really want whoever's listening to take this in, is like, ask yourself, you know, if you're going to a place and you're showing up with your authenticity, and it may not be something that resonates with everybody around you, who's trying to create limitations and put you down or say that it doesn't work, versus who's trying to say, hey, what do you like, ask better questions or empower you to figure that out. And what I found is that it's so important to be around a group of individuals that thinks big, because the bigger they think, the bigger problems you can access. And I find that's what's beautiful about the community, Bitcoin community, is that, you know, we're all thinking huge, and because we're all thinking huge, we're doing it. So I'm grateful to be on this journey with you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I agree. I also, I don't know, I just ended up here. You know, like now that you summarize it like that, I think, yeah, like fixing the money is the biggest thing that we can do. Because again, everything bad in the world, everything that you think you want to fix in this world is downstream from the brokenness of the money. And so fixing the money together and freeing ourselves from our inherent corruptibility, creating the time to help not only ourselves but also others to, I would almost want to say, like, expand their consciousness. That sounds like a great pursuit, you know. And yesterday I think yesterday I tweeted, wait, I'm gonna look it up. Why, sorry, I'm scrolling.
Okay.
How can figuring out what the best money is be a niche subject? Like, don't we all just want the best money? Like, how are you content with randomly created paper? Like, what a weird illusion. Like, and I'm not saying this from with hubris, like I was there,
I know.
you know,
No,
and now I'm in another place, but it's just, I don't understand that people don't think about this. And I'm not sure yet what the cause of that is, but I love spending my time and energy on helping figuring this out. So I'm also very grateful for your invitation and this great conversation. And yeah, love it, man. It's just
let's
good energy.
let's bridge it all together, brother. It's time. The great reset. Let's do this.
Yeah,
I'm so pumped. This is gonna be a fun, you know, rest of the lifetime doing big things and creating and
exactly.
making magic and just like I'm so grateful, bro, because we are literally we're the future, and we're doing it now, and we're doing it in real time, and we're making it happen. We're figuring it out, and um
Exactly this. I hope this is an inspiration for other people. Like just the doing. Like we are just two dudes also, you know, like just doing it, trying to contribute to this. Like I feel that is already the inspiration for other people. And doesn't matter what your skill is or background or all these things. Like, well, you've been to the conference, Bitcoin conference as well. People from all over the place. Like, there's no skin color, there's no religion, there's no how rich you are or what clothes you wear. Like, all these things are irrelevant. And I think that is what actually brings us closer together. Like, more a mind or a mental understanding, instead of uh, the superficial stuff that people judge other people on
I think
nowadays.
it's even deeper. It goes down to our spirit, our core values, our principles, and fundamentally our consciousness. I think that
Yeah.
it is who we are, and we all have decided to trust in a deeper identity within ourselves, and knowing that we're going to take responsibility for our lives versus allowing somebody else to dictate our behaviors, because it's in the moments of decision that our destiny becomes determined. And when we make a destiny and we step into that destiny, we choose that identity and we fucking move forward with implemented, inspired action.
Yes. Awesome. I love it.
I love you, brother. So tell us, where can we, anybody that's listening, get more information about all the amazing podcasts, all the amazing work that you do? If they want to find out, to learn more how to work with you, how to bring you in, where can they find more information so that they have an easy way?
Yeah. So my main like social activity is on Twitter, or X, how it's called, and my username there is Bram K. So BRAMK. And well, you can find about more about me and what I do at Kanstein.co or Kanstein.co, co. So my last name.co. And you can find my podcast, Bitcoin for Millennials, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast.
And brother, last question before we go. I ask everybody this. What would you do if you had 3 days left to live?
Wow. Um, wow. Good question. I think I would just play with my son, actually. Just build Lego. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Brother,
Thank
I
you,
love you so
man.
much. Thank you,
Likewise,
bro.
love you.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your wisdom, your legend, and we'll talk soon, my bro.
Cheers, man. Thank you.